Initial reports had suggested there would be a breakthrough in Brussels, but the UK and the European Union have failed to reach an agreement on key issues over Brexit. One of the sticking points appears to be whether goods would be able to move between Northern Ireland and the Republic without tariffs. British Prime Minister Theresa May and European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker insist both sides will eventually overcome their differences.
I'm still confident that we can reach sufficient progress before the European Council of the 15th of December. This is not a failure. This is the start of the very last round.
It's clear, crucially, that we want to move forward together. But on a couple of issues, some differences do remain, which require further negotiation and consultation. Those will continue, but we will reconvene before the end of the week.
So let's go to Brussels, where these talks were taking place, and let's join Kevin Ozebek over there. Welcome to the show, Kevin. There were high expectations that Theresa May and Jean-Claude Juncker would reach an agreement, at least over the Irish border issue. What went wrong?
Well, when we heard from Prime Minister May and President Juncker there, they didn't give the specifics. They didn't say why no breakthrough was reached today. But just within this hour, we did hear from the Prime Minister of Ireland, and he confirms that this has everything to do with Ireland. He says he was told that a deal, or at least a potential deal, looked like it was about to be reached because the UK agreed to giving Northern Ireland this special status where essentially it would be staying in the EU customs union, or at least keeping a lot of the rules of the EU customs union, and that would prevent a hard border from going up between the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. But the DUP, a pretty hard right political party in Northern Ireland that formed a coalition with Prime Minister May in order for her to retain power after the snap election, voiced its opposition to that and said Northern Ireland has to be just like the rest of the UK once Brexit is in effect. So in other words, it doesn't want to keep any aspect of the EU. So that really threw a wrench in this. But Juncker, May, they say they're still hopeful. They're going to keep negotiating this week. And they do say that progress has been made. They do hope that they can have a breakthrough soon.
Right. Kevin, looked at from Europe's perspective, how important is the Irish border issue?
Well, this is a crucial deal, and EU leaders say, however the Republic of Ireland, however the Prime Minister there views this, that is the view of the EU 27. And we know Ireland is refusing any notion of there being a hard border going up between the Republic and the North. That would separate families, that would make it very hard for goods and people to cross that border, a border that hundreds of people pass every single day. So if there is a hard border, that is a non-starter for the EU. They say they will not allow that to happen. They will not allow this to be a bargaining chip when it comes to these negotiations. For Prime Minister May, really, the clock is ticking here. There is an EU summit at the end of next week. She was hoping at this summit that the EU 27 would sign off on phase 2 of Brexit negotiations, which would be the start of talking about a new trade deal. But if this issue of the Irish border isn't settled, that likely will not happen.
Kevin Ozebek in Brussels, thank you very much indeed. Let's turn now to Steve Keane. He's a professor of economics at Kingston University, and he's joining us today from Amsterdam. Professor Keane, welcome once again to Money Talks. What would a return to a hard border between Northern Ireland and the Republic mean for the economies of these two regions?
I think it's more what it means for the politics of the two regions, because if you've spent any time in Northern Ireland, I've done it a few occasions since I've been here, the level of tension that's still there, the orange and the green, is still palpable. And the last thing anybody wants to do in some ways is reignite that. Now, if a hard border went up, then you would have that amplifying the divisions between the predominantly Catholic Ireland, Republic of Ireland, predominantly non-Catholic or mixed Catholic and Protestant North, and nobody wants a return to the level of tension, of course, outright terrorism that occurred when that was a real border, when that was a real barrier. So I think the long-term only feasible long-term arrangement is effectively for North Ireland to be both in the UK and still in the single market. They're not in the Eurozone itself. That's feasible, but the DUP, being such a strong right-wing party, really has to put up a large resistance to this. I think this will be a shadow play that finally sees them agreeing to having special rights where they are both in the UK and have access to the single market. But they're making as much noise as they can in the meantime to make that appear difficult.
Right. Steve, what does this failure then to get an agreement on the Irish border mean for the agreements on the other two big issues, and that is the rights of EU and UK citizens and the financial compensation issue?
Yeah, well, they could all be resolved independently. This is the crazy thing that, in many ways, the European Union wants to make this as painful as possible. As was Yanis Varoufakis's point, don't think they're negotiating in good faith. They want to make it seem very, very uncomfortable and difficult for anybody to want to leave the European Union. So in that sense, they're using this as yet another means, just as they did Greece, to make it look like it's a very bad thing to want to leave the Union. To me, I think this is a point showing that the fallacy of the European Union's failure to achieve its objectives in the first place. It should be the sort of place people want to join for positive reasons. Instead, they're dreaming up negative ones to make it very, very hard to leave. So this is a real maelstrom, and you can see the impact of Theresa May's completely foolish attempt to get a huge electoral majority, which backfired on her and left her dependent on a group like a DUP in the process.
Steve, now there had been reports that the UK was going to agree to pay 50 billion euros, that's about $60 billion. Does that sound like a reasonable figure to ensure that the UK is able to at least start talking about trade?
No. I think this is this to me was a crazy concession by the British to begin with. It's to agreeing to something of that order of cost. These things can be covered by national governments, and in the case of the EU, the central banks like the ECB, simply creating the money they want. They don't have to raise the money by getting a transfer from one country to another. So this is another case, of how the European Central Bank administrators don't understand money in the first place. The whole madness of the Maastricht Treaty is really what's led to this entire maelstrom. So that combined with them wanting to basically enforce this idea of an ever-expanding Europe. Right. And the whole idea, of course, of Britain leaving goes in the opposition to that ideology.
Right. Professor Steve Keane, Kingston University, thank you ever so much.